Hi there, it's Pip here from queenpipcards.com, and today I'm busting open the mysteries about card sizes and layering and how to get the perfect layers on top of cards. I've been asked to do this video a lot, so here it is. And if you click on the link in the description below, you'll also find a link to sign up and grab a cheat sheet that's got it all written out for you. So pop into that link and grab that too. But I'm going to show it to you on a video just so that you get the basics, and hopefully it will demystify what's been going on out there. So I get asked a lot about, you know, how I remember how I do all my different card sizes, and just how to get it drummed into your head about how it all works. And I think the biggest problem that people find is they don't realise that not all A4 cardstock is the same size. I know, it's weird. I don't know why, but if you've ever watched a US video or liked a design on Pinterest and then tried to actually recreate it with your cardstock here in Europe, and then you don't know why it doesn't work out, it just doesn't look the same, it's slightly off, it's because they started with a US piece of cardstock, A4, and we're starting with a European piece of cardstock, A4, and they're not the same. So that's the first thing that you need to get into your head. So our cardstock is not even an equal size, which is very annoying. I don't know why they designed it this way, but they did, and we have to live with it. So our cardstock is 21 centimeters wide, and it's 29.7 ish in 6.5, 7ish in length. So it's not equal. And in inches, that's 8.25 by 11 7/8. Whereas our American cardstock, I think, is 8.5 by 11.5. So you can see it's completely different size. So that's why we have to work with some odd numbers and some odd amounts in our calculations when we're cutting. And it's also really bizarre that when people show you the different sizes between A5, A4 and A6, they always show it to you in that size. So this is how you'll see it on the internet when you see a picture and you look for card sizes. This is A4, this is A5, this is A6. But actually what you really need to see it as is this, because then it makes so much more sense. An A5 is half of an A4, and an A6 is half of an A5. And if they just showed it to you like that, that would make a lot more sense to people, I think. It certainly made a lot more sense to me when I worked that out. So let's take you through step by step. So an A4 piece cut in half, this way or this way, you can do to make card bases, but when it's called an A5 piece of cardstock, it's cut in half here. And to cut that in half, obviously I need my trusty trimmer. So to cut your cardstock in half to give you an A5 base, you will need to cut it at 14.9 centimetres, just on 14.9, and that then gives you two halves, which are pretty much the same. There could be a millimetre in it, but it saves you having to do half mil. So that gives you two A5 card bases. You can also cut it the other way around. So the difference is in how you're going to fold the card, but you can also cut it, how I call it, to make a standy-uppy card, with the short edge at the top, and then you cut that at 10.5 centimetres. And that's because this is 21 centimetres wide. Remember, it's 21 wide by 29.6 this way. So half is half of 21, which is 10.5. Half is half of 29.6. Wouldn't it be nice if it was 15, if it was 30, and then it would be 15, but it isn't 30, it's near enough 27. So cut that in half at 14.9-ish gives you two card bases. So that's how you get to your card bases, which then form the basis of the majority of cards. So if you've cut it this way, you want to fold it in half. So remembering that that's 29.7ish, you're going to fold that in half again, the same distance you would if you were cutting it in half. So line it back up as if it was an A4, but rather than cutting, you're now folding and scoring at 14.9 centimetres. So that then gives you that score line to fold in half. And again on this one, you've cut it at 14.9, but now you need to fold it. So again, this is 21 wide, so you're going to score it at 10.5. And that will give you your fold halfway across the A5. Okay, so now we know that that's how you cut and score those pieces to give you your standard, as I call it, standy-uppy card. And this one is your more generally known open card fold, okay, which does that. Also, of course, does this one as well, this way round, because you're just turning it that way. So that's how you go from a A4 to an A5 or half of an A4 lengthways into two cards which are now known as A6 size, because A6 is half of an A5, which is half of an A4. So hopefully that's demystified the A4, A5, A6 debacle. And then what we're doing is we're going to get on to the cutting of your mats and layers. So here's a card that's got very standard mats and layers on it. You can see that the card base is the Night of Navy, then it's got a Whisper White border all the way around, and then it's got some designer series paper on the top. And the 3 layers is fairly standard, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an even border all of the way around your central piece of designer series paper, so it just gives it that stepped up look. And the way I like to do that is I always like to cut my cardstock in the same way as if I was cutting card bases for my mats and layers, and that's because it makes it very easy to see whether you're going in the right direction or not. So to cut my first set of mats, rather than cutting at 14.9, I know I want to have a border around it. And the way I get an even border around it is to take half a centimetre off each cut, and then that way you get 1/4 of a centimetre showing all the way around. So the card base ends up being 14.9 by 10.5. That means that your first layer needs to be half a centimetre on both sides in from that, so therefore it will be 10 by 14.4. And then your second layer is 9.5 by 13.9. So you see you just keep coming in and down half a centimetre all the way. But if you cut it as if you were cutting a card base and then bring it in, it's easier for you to see that first mat. So I know that the first one would be, normally it's 14.9, but I bring it in to 14.4, which is that half a centimetre in from my original starting point. And again, normally if I was cutting a piece of cardstock in half, it would be 10.5, but I want to bring it in half a centimetre, so rather than cutting in half at 10.5, I cut it in at 10. This also means that you can do 2 at the same time because you've already got one right next to it. And if you cut that one at 10 as well, then it gives you that piece left over. Okay. Now if I was cutting in even further, so I was doing my top layer, I want to now go in half for my first and then half again for my second layer. So now I'm cutting at 13.9. Again, cut all the way down. And again, I'm coming in. So my card base is 10.5, my first layer is 10, so my second layer must be 9.5. And again, if you cut two at the same time, because we always need mats and layers, you have the added bonus of it giving you this piece, which just happens to be a nice 2 centimetre piece that you can then stamp sentiments on and use it for, you know, banners or flags, or this piece here that went on the top of this card. So I also find it useful to always cut in that way. And what that does is it means that you can actually reconstruct your piece of A4 paper. And you know therefore that you've got it right. So we've got, oops, that 9.5 and 9.5 together comes to 19, plus your 2 centimetre strip brings you to the 21, and then on the top layer you've got your 10 and 10, and then this piece is your 1, and then you've got this long piece here that you chopped off to start off with, because you've cut each one of these 0.5 centimetre shorter, so you've got 1 centimetre left here on the top. So that's how I do my mats and layers, and what that allows me to do is always get out of one piece of Whisper White cardstock 4 mats, and either I can have 4 this size, 4 this size, or 2 of each, like that. And then you know that they will layer up perfectly on your card base, one on top of the other, like so. If I can get rid of my fluff. So there you have. That's a perfect layering up for your A6 card. So I hope that's taken some of the mystery out of matting and layering, and I hope that if you can just remember those measurements. So 14.9 to give you this card, or 10.5 this way, and then your 10 and your 9.5 by your 14.4 and your 13.9. That will always give you perfect matting and layering every time. And obviously you just change these up to colours, designer series paper, you know, whatever you want to be able to layer up your card. So finally, the other question I get is, so what's a C6 then? What does C6 stand for? Well, that refers to your envelope, and your envelope is a C where your card is an A. So this is an A6 and it will go into a C6 envelope. So there you go, that's the mystery hopefully solved. If you'd like to know a bit more, then click on the link, sign up to get my quick sizing guide, and it will take you through the same for A5 size cards. And come along and see me again soon. And if you'd like to purchase a trimmer so you know you get perfect sizing every time, pop into the link below and you can come along to my store as well. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, see you again soon, bye.